Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We begin our service on page 4 with Hine Matov. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Shalom aleichem, salam aleikum. Shalom aleichem, salam aleikum. Shalom aleichem, salam aleikum. Shalom aleichem, salam aleikum. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Yuvah, of course, is the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's the Shabbat of return. Some we will add those traditional inserts that we normally do for certain prayers during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur for tonight's service. But as we return to Shabbat and we focus on the idea of returning inward, it's also an opportunity for gratitude and for thanks. And as we're experimenting with a new high holiday experience because of the virus, Temple Emanu-El has tried to pivot and provide such incredible services for all of you. And that's done by extraordinary people from our staff. But there's a few people in particular that I want to acknowledge. And first, Jason Ruha, if you're watching, all your time and devotion. Caleb Young, who's the one doing our cameras and our sound tech, he's here with endless hours. Mark Robinson, for those who watched Rosh Hashanah, he helmed with Linda Gutchin the visual tefillah to make sure that we were on the right page so all of you could watch. And there's one person in particular that I want to acknowledge now and offer significant gratitude because he is simply Gittim Mishema, a good soul, the highest praise that we can give to someone in Judaism. Last year, he rescued us at our deepest hour with 25 years of institutional history. And now, in his 26th year or 27th year, I believe that's debated, perhaps. Is it 26th or 27th? Paul Moseller has worked, again, endless hours, working with Cantor Whitner, doing a ton of music preparations for a new cantor and working with the choir and the limitations of 12 people. But he's been there for us day in and day out, making sure that we have such quality experience. And we love this individual, and therefore we would love to welcome you, Paul, just off the keys for a moment to light our candles, because not only have you lightened our congregation, every time we see you, you lighten our souls. And please light these candles. Page 9. We turn to page 10, and for those who are able, we rise together for Kiddush.
בשבת קודשו, באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים. קיווינו בחרת מאותנו קידשת מכל העמים בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Please be seated. Page 4.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו.
Continue on page 4. Lecha Dodi.
לחנותי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. לחנותי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבורך תשמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. שם ותפארת ולתהילה. לחנותי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. לחנותי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו בני אלחקים מקור הברכה. בראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לחנותי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. לחנותי לקראת קהלה פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לחנותי לקראת קהלה פני
rise together and face the west to greet Shabbat HaMelkah.
Boi v'shalom, ateret malakam v'simcha uvzohola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lechandon dili katkala, benei Shabbat nekabela, lechandon dili katkala, benei Shabbat nekabela.
We remain standing, bottom of page 11.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch hu et Adonai ha-mevorach. Baruch Adonai ha-mevorach le'olam evaed, le'olam evaed. Yadadai-dai-dai, 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 yadadai-dai-dai.
We continue on the bottom of page 13 as Rabbi Nachum of Ratzov taught us, Master of the universe, grant me the ability to be alone. May it be my custom to go outdoors each day among the trees and grasses, among all growing things, there to be alone and enter into prayer. And for those at home, please join me. There may I express all that is in my heart, talking with God to whom I belong. And may all grasses, trees, and plants awake at my coming. Send the power of their life into my prayer. Make it whole my heart and my speech through the life and spirit of growing things, made whole by their transcendent source. Oh, that they would enter into my prayer. Then would I fully open my heart in prayer, supplication, and holy speech. Then, O God, would I pour out the words of my heart before your presence. Page 14.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, משוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח מחוקיך, ונשמח מדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיי בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We continue on page 20. As a matter of truth and of faith, we proclaim that Adonai is our God, and there is none else, and we are Israel, God's people. God has freed us from the grip of earthly rulers. Our sovereign redeemed us from the fist of tyrants. God has done great things and countless wonders that surpass our understanding. Given us life, we have not stumbled. God has given us miracles to overcome Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, and from their midst Israel was brought to eternal freedom. And when the children of Israel witnessed the divine power, they extolled God, gave thanks, and accepted God's dominion. With great joy, Moses and all Israel sang this song, our song of freedom, Michamocha, the top of page 21.
חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Top of page 23. Adonai, our God, cause us to lie down in peace and raise us up, our sovereign, to life. Cover us with the sukkah of your peace. Improve us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us, remove from us enmity, pestilence, war, hunger, and anguish. Let there be no evil before us or behind us. Protect us within the shadow of your wings, for you are our guardian and our helper, our divine ruler, merciful and gracious. Guard our going out and our coming into life and to peace, now and forevermore. Cover us with the sukkah of your peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who spreads the sukkah of peace over us, over the people of Israel and over Jerusalem. Page 22.
Hashkifeinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Mehamidenu Malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkifeinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Mehamidenu Malkeinu l'chaim. Uveros aleinu sugat shomecha, ushmor tzedkeinu uvoheinu. Uveros aleinu sugat shomecha, ushmor tzedkeinu uvoheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Amen.
The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbos in every generation as a covenant forever. It is a sign between me and the people Israel that in 6 days God made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God rested and was renewed. Page 23.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת מי נפש.
For those who are able, we rise together for tefillah.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elokei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Megonei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואמהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב למושיע, מוריד אתה מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים מרחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים מרחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש.
Please be seated. Page 29. The meaning of Sabbath is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week we live under the tyranny of things in space. But on Shabbat, we try to become attuned to the holiness in time. It's a day when we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the result of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. The bottom of page 30, desire Adonai our God, your people Israel, and with love accept our prayers, and may the worship of Israel, your people, always be pleasing in your sight. O God, who is close to all who cry out, turn your face toward your servants and be gracious unto us. Pour out your Spirit upon us, and with our mercy let our eyes behold your return to Zion. Blessed are you, Adonai, who restores the divine presence to Zion. And the top of page 35. Grant us peace, thy most precious gift, O thou eternal source of peace, and enable Israel to be its messenger unto the peoples of the earth. Bless our country, that it may ever be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among the inhabitants of all lands. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of thy name hallow every home and every heart. Praise be thou, O Lord, giver of peace. Page 34.
Israel. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום, ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה, ברכה ושלום ניזכר וניכתב לפניך, אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
We take a few moments for silent prayer.
יהיו רצון אמרפי, יהיו רצון אמרפי, מהגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, מעל כל ישראל, ואמרו,
On this Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat of return, this temple community is especially thinking of those who need healing of body or spirits. On this special Shabbat, we especially think of Vicky Luger, Robin Silverman Ayers, Deborah Ivy, Nancy Russo, Jody Baum, Bruce Fleissig, Brian Cohn, Raymond Gottlieb, Bert Cotton, Isaac Petrowski, Bethany Pridmore, Lena Bludstein, Katie Bates, Kenny Siegel, Rucker Collier, Eileen Johnson, Chrissy St. Charles and Don St. Charles, Kekelet Mendel, Dan Larson, Dr. Lynn Simons, Dr. Jason Bailey, and Francis Rosten. We ask you to think of those names who are in need of healing of body and spirit silently in your hearts. Our Misha Berach, our prayer for healing, on page 38.
la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema. The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. There's a great teaching that I want to share with all of you. That Judaism recognizes the religious and ethnic diversity that each person brought into this world represents something unique and special. And for our great rabbis especially, they marveled that coins are minted from the same die and come out exactly the same. But the miracle of the human being is that while we are also cast from the same die, that is the original die of Adam, each person is unquestionably unique and unlike any other. And therefore, we all have our own opinions. We all have our own reflections, beliefs, and especially a worldview in which we live by. It's our compass that complements our instruction from Torah. And last week, right around this time, we as a country found out about the passing of the Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And for the past week, I've heard from many of you as to how we at Temple Emanu-El would mourn her and reflect the legacy of her life. And I wrestled with this, and for honesty and transparency in this congregation, I didn't know when to talk about her. And after all, she hasn't been laid to rest yet, so in her Kaddish simply didn't seem appropriate at that time. And of course, she's not yet into Shloshim, therefore. But I wanted to make sure as we talk about the late Justice, I didn't want to specifically talk about any cases that she adjudicated that would make some of us uncomfortable because we may disagree with some of her rulings. And that is where I was extremely hesitant. But after soul-searching and examining the life of this incredible justice, I think there's valuable lessons to her life that we should especially emulate as we welcome November. We can remember that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she was the one who, of course, fought for gender equality, and for something that makes me incredibly proud, just like Justice Brandeis, she was the first Jewish woman appointed to the bench. And I've always cavilled and loved this and celebrated especially the idea that American Jews were successful because of our rigorous devotion to this country and our belief that we can do it. Of course, she holds this title that no one will ever have. But there's something different about her. And for those who saw the email that went out this morning, there was a picture of her going on vacation, which she loved to do. And she went to India, and on this elephant, she was with her dear best friend, the late Justice who passed away 4 years ago, Antonin Scalia. They too were riding on an elephant, absolutely having the best time of their life. And if they weren't traveling the world together with their significant others, they would go to the opera together. Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia, they loved each other's company. They were dear friends. But when we look at the careers of Justice Ginsburg and Justice Scalia, for those people who are involved in the American political scene or those who love to follow the Supreme Court, they were at complete opposite sides. And I could strongly suggest, though I'm not a legal scholar, sometimes I play one on television, that Antonin Scalia He was a constitutionalist. You may have heard these terms now, that he believed the Constitution is as is, and this is the way that we interpret the document as an 18th century representation of American life. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg perhaps emulated the ethos of Abraham Geiger, the father of Reform Judaism, who believed that the Torah is an ever-breathing document. Perhaps we can suggest that she saw the Constitution as a breathing document, the ability to make legal adjudication based on where we are as a society. And these two were absolutely polar opposites. And I'm highly confident that when they were adjudicating the case, again, a lot of these decisions are made before oral arguments where the justices duke it out in this room, and I would love to be a fly in that wall, but there's a great teaching for Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the Father. Says, any argument that is for the sake of heaven will endure forever. But any argument that is not made for the sake of heaven will not endure. And this is to teach us that in the Jewish spirit, we debate, we argue, there's many opinions, but if we can find a true difference of opinion and still respect each other, that is why we're here. And we can say that Ruth Bader Ginsburg and their relationship, they probably disagreed the majority of the time as to when they were looking at a case. But the special relationship between them is that when they left the sacred halls of the Supreme Court, perhaps they would talk about wine, opera, travel. They respected each other's minds and complimented one of another. And as I look at our society today, for her legacy especially, this is something that we must strive for, because I'm confident that this November, once results are made, we are becoming more tribal and more binary, and I'm confident that more relationships are going to be destroyed simply because of political ideology. And we looked at this in 2016, that a Reuters poll indicated that 20% of people stopped talking to a friend because of political differences. The researcher Frank Lutz, who's Jewish, said that a third stopped talking to a family member because of political disagreements over politics. And this one is simply troubling, that the Wakefield research study indicated that 29% of Americans either married or in a serious relationship acknowledge that politics is causing tension. And yes, many are filing for divorce, and there's more arguments being made in certain publications that if your significant other holds a certain political belief, that you can no longer be with this person. And this is the stuff that not only troubles me as a rabbi, but troubles me as an American. And Dave Wasserman of the Cook Political Report perfectly nailed it, is that there's a generation of Americans who are growing up or having never known or having talked to anyone with a different point of view. If it's the fear of the other that drives prejudices and bigotries, and early exposure to other views that dissolves them, there is much to fear. If you think our political climate is toxic now, think how politics will be in 30 years. It's not the job of a rabbi or cantor or musical director. It's not our job to ever pontificate politics. I firmly believe that the job of the clergy is to be there, is to show up, is to serve as a spiritual leader. That I never want any of our congregants to value us ever as pundits. And when we're ever there for you during a difficult moment or a moment of joy, we don't want this congregational family to think that we embodied certain political beliefs because we talked about it here in this holy space during this moment. I think that we're going to get hit hard, especially in November. We're going to be obsessed with certain cable news. We're going to read more articles. I'm terribly concerned that we're not going to have the ability to shut it off, like Ruth Bader did, Ginsburg, and with Antonin Scalia. If we can find the courage to accept people for their deeds, who they are and what they embody, that's what both of the late justices saw with each other. And as I conclude in the legacy of both of these justices, there's a famous trauma surgeon at Hadassah Hospital, and he's actually the head of the unit, Dr. Ahmed Eid. He's an Arab Israeli. I'm certain that he may not endorse the Likud party, but when he performs life-saving operation, he doesn't ask the patient if they're an Israeli, if they're a staunch Zionist, if they're Muslim, if they're Druze, if they're Christian. That he sees the patient as a patient, not as a political ideology. So when we have welcomed already this new year, we're going to enter new territory in November. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. I know so many of you are so passionately involved in this. But just remember, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg fought for gender rights, as she became the first Jewish Supreme Court justice as a woman, as she became best friends with an absolute polar opposite, who saw the joys in this individual, who saw the limitations in this individual, who traveled the world with this individual, who celebrated life with this person. Al chat kama v'kama, all the more so could we take to heed this special relationship. At the end of the day, we are Americans. As Judaism teaches us, we have different sides of the coin from that midrash. Celebrating uniqueness is important. Celebrating our own worldviews and opinions is important. But it's our ability to respect the other, to see that person as an individual, not as an ideology. On this Shabbat Shuvah, may both their memories forever be a blessing. Let us remember their goodness, their ability to see the other side, to travel the world, to have a good glass of wine, and perhaps some good opera. Shabbat Shalom. We turn to page 40 and we rise together for Elenu.
השמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינת עוזו בגובי מרומים ואלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו כתוב בתורתו וידעת היום מחשבות אל לבביך כי אדוני הוא
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to all of us and to all of humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love, the meaning of loss, the meaning of life, and the meaning of death. On this Shabbat, we recall the yortzites of B.L. Punch Ahrens, Gertrude Michaelov Adcox, Lynn C. Alexander, Sarah Allen, Arnold Altmark, Gertrude W. Beck, Rosalind B. Bernheim, Helen Bettinger, Samuel Bittner, Herman Bloomberg, Jack F. Broda, Dudley Burwell, Salvador Cahin, Jean Elkis, Marvin Feldman, Herman Fetter, Lon David Fleur, Selma Friedman, Vera Galbert, Joan Marcus Gilbert, Leon Gotcha II, Murray M. Gold, Mervyn Drum Goldstein, Marvin Goldstein, Ruth Bromberg Goldstein, Mary Richmond Green, David Greenberg, Claire Hagedorn, Abraham Hyatt, Sylvia K. Einzelbach, Edward L. Cantor, David Cantor, Hannah Kaufman, Nessie Kessler, Bertha R. Kessler, Louis Kushner, Max Lefkowitz, Alfred Babe Levinson, Norm Levinson, Faye Lewitz, Harry Margolin, Oscar Babe May, Sam Miller, Marshall Howard Miller, Samuel E. Mogilner, Rose Monheit, Shimon Nagrodsky, Ina R. Pitt, Myra Edith Rathmel, Mickey Reese, Lydia Rogers, Barbara G. Rosenbaum, Francis Rosenbush, Samuel Rosenthal, Vernon R. Rosenthal, Richard Routman, Neil Russakoff, Greta Korn Schwartz, Philip Shapiro and Nathan Shapiro, Mabel B. Skyer, Rebecca Slive, Mary Solomon, Morris Solomon, Leo K. Steiner Jr., Barbara Tannenbaum, Margaret Thompson, Merrill Wilkoff, and our heartfelt condolences in the recent passings of Helen Glazer, Julius Goldstein, Maria Lynn, Lynn Otis Wilmoth,
Sheila Copeland.
may their memories forever be a blessing. Our Martyr's Cottage can be found in our prayer book on page 44. Yikadal Vikada Shemei Rabbah, Bioma Divra Chirote Vamlich Malchute, Bechayachon Vyomechon, Ufchet the Kol Beit Yisrael, Bagala Wizman Kariv, Vimru.
Amen.
Yehe Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Olamei Almaya. Yit Barach, Yishabach, Yit Barard, Yit Romam, Nihit Nase. Vita Dar, Vita Le, Vita Lal, Shmei Kutsha. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushvichata v'nechamata. Damin ram bioma, Vimru.
Amen.
Yehe Shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael. V'yimru Amen. Osei Shalom b'imramav, Huyasei Shalom. Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael. V'yimru Amen. Before we conclude with Adon Olam on page 132, just a reminder regarding our 10-day food drive. We have a few days left, so thank you so much for those who made donations, and thank you for those who will make donations. Adon Olam.
העולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. ירררי, די, יררי, ירררי, ירררי, די, יררי, ירררי, די, 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 ירררי, ירררי, די, די. והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו להחמירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה. והוא אלי וחי גולי, בצור כבליף מעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא. ירררי, די, 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 ירררי, ירררי, די, ירררי, די, די, ירררי, די. בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת ישן ואירה, ועם רוחי גמייתי, אדוני בני ולא יירא. ירררי, די, 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 ירררי, ירררי, די, די, ירררי, די, די, די,
Shana Tova, good Shabbos. We'll see you Sunday night.
Shabbat shalom.